Hey everybody, Guitar Guts back here. This video is a continuation and breakdown of one of the guitars featured in my short scale bass comparison video. So if you haven't seen that yet, you might want to go back and look at that overall view of this one compared to three other basses. And then you can come back here and get the specifics about this Fender Mustang short scale bass. This is a great little bass. Now, I am going to tell you some things that I don't like about it here in a few minutes and what I've done to sort of mitigate those things. But I don't want you to leave thinking, oh gosh, he pointed out some things he didn't like about it. It must be a terrible bass. It is not. It's a fantastic little bass. It's a great upgrade platform. And there's nothing wrong with this bass. I may have a few little personal preferences where I wanted to change some stuff, but there's nothing wrong with this bass. It's a great playing little bass. Let's start up here at the top. It's got good tuners on it that have held tune very well. One of the things you want to keep in mind about this bass and other Fenders as well, you got a string tree holding down these two strings to give you a better break angle over the neck. This string dives straight down to a tuner that's very close, so it's got good break angle over the neck. This one, if you're using a small gauge string, can sometimes not have enough break angle going over the nut to not rattle inside the nut slot here. So you want to be sure to wrap a couple more winds around that post than you do the other ones. And that's going to be true on a lot of Fender basses if you're using lighter gauge strings. If you're using heavier gauge strings, probably won't matter because the string itself is so fat, it's pushing itself down the post enough to give you that break angle. This neck is one of the most comfortable necks I have ever played on any instrument. It's finished really well. There's no sharp fret ends or anything like that. The frets are all polished really well. The sanding job is top notch, super smooth. But I think it's the contour of the neck that I like so much on this guitar. It is a normal Fender jazz width up here, and it's the normal sort of jazz neck contour, but there's something that's just a little bit, it almost reminds me just a hair of the old Clapton V-neck Strat necks. It's just got a little bit of extra depth in it right here in the center, and I just really like that. Whereas the Squire's basically the same shape, but it's a little flatter in the back. It's just a standard C shape. I really like the shape on this little Fender Mustang bass's neck. All the frets are finished very well. No sharp fret ends whatsoever. String spacing's really good. The bridge is really solid. It adjusts well. I don't have any complaints about it. The PJ pickup configuration sounded pretty good. It's just your standard Fender PJ configuration. My only gripe about that was that the J pickup was a little underpowered compared to the P pickup. It just felt a little thin. It felt a little underpowered compared, and that is why on mine I have replaced those pickups with Seymour Duncan Vintage P and Vintage Jazz pickups. And I don't know whether the bridge pickup on those is a little bit more powerful and tends to even out, or if the P pickup is a little less powerful and tends to even it out, but it does even it out. I like the tone with those pickups in a lot better, but there's nothing wrong with the standard Fender pickups that come in the guitar. Now, when we get into the control scheme here on the control panel, this is one of the places where I found that I didn't like the way they had it set up. There's nothing wrong with it. It works okay. But you got one volume here and one tone, and then your input jack. And then up here you got the selector switch. And that selector switch will switch between the the neck pickup and the bridge pickup, or both. And that's cool. I mean, you can get the full-on neck pickup, and you can adjust the volume, you can adjust the tone down here. You can get the full-on bridge pickup, adjust the volume and tone, and you can get both of them together. What you can't do, though, on this guitar is blend a little bit of each together. You can't turn the neck pickup halfway up and the bridge pickup all the way up, or vice versa. You can't do that. It's either on or it's not. And I didn't like that. I'm so used to playing Fender jazz basses, I guess, that a lot of my favorite positions are somewhere in between. You know, both pickups running, but, you know, the P cut down a little bit and just a little bit of the jazz pickup added in for flavor, for a little bit of brightness, a little bit of snap. And I couldn't do that on this guitar. And I found it really frustrating when I was trying to play, because I kept trying to get back to those sweet spots, you know, and they just weren't here on this one. So what I've done is I've gone into my personal one. Not only did I change out the pickups, but I also changed the wiring scheme. You can see that I don't have that selector switch on mine. That's my tone control on mine. So what I've done is I've simply gone into mine, and maybe I'll make a better video later explaining exactly how this works, but I just put a jazz circuit in it. That's all it is. It's a Fender jazz bass circuit. So down here, I've got the volume for the neck pickup. I've got the volume for the bridge pickup, and then up here, I've got the tone for both. So all I did was I wired these up as 2 volumes, and then instead of running down to a third knob for the tone, I've simply taken that one, put it up here, and then stretched wires all the way up to that, and then wires all the way back down to the jack. And it is a little bit, you know, it's a little bit of stretch. You've got to get those wires up there to the control knob and then all the way back down to the jack. So you've got to have, you know, you got to have yourself some extra wire to do that. You'll have to have yourself an extra 250K tone pot to add up here. And then you'll either have to have the full-size knob, which I've got on there now, is full-sized, just like the volumes down here. But I've thought about taking that off and replacing it with a smaller knob up top. I thought maybe that would look good. I don't know if I like the look of that big knob sitting up there, but I'll figure that out later. That was really my only gripe about this guitar, was the fact that they had, you know, they had taken away the versatility that they could have put in that thing by adding that little toggle switch. Now, the other thing that bothered me about that toggle switch, and you can fix it fairly easily, is that when you're sitting down in the original configuration, here's your bridge pickup, you know, and there's your neck. When you're sitting down, if your knee comes up a little bit, it'll knock that off. And mine did that over and over again. I don't know how many times my knee would come up far enough to knock that back to the middle position when I was trying to solo the bridge pickup. And it was just annoying. What you can do is you can loosen that up right there and just spin that jack around, or spin the switch around to where it's toggling up and down instead of that way, right? And that'll keep your knee from hitting it so bad. But then it's not quite as convenient. You know, when you're playing and your hand's wanting to swipe up to knock that on or off, that's really sort of a natural movement, whereas moving this way and that way is not that natural of a movement. So just, I don't know, there was something about that knob that just, everything about it I thought was just not what I wanted on that bass. But that fixed it, man. And that thing, I'm telling you, I put these in first, and that did improve it a lot. I mean, it sounded a lot better with those Seymour Duncan pickups in it. It was more balanced. They have a more vintage flavor to them. Great pickups. But changing that switch out was what really opened this thing up. It's a completely different sounding instrument now. And if I had any skill as a bass player, I'd show you what that sounded like, but I just don't. So I'm embarrassed to do that. But that was the best modification I made to this little thing. Didn't cost much at all, maybe $10 or so. But other than that, yeah, man, this is just a great little short scale bass, the Fender Mustang. One of the best little short scale basses you can pick up right now. And I really, really, really enjoy playing this. It's just so comfortable that you just want to pick it up every time you see it, right? Hope that one breaks that one down for you. Look for the other basses in other videos, and we'll talk to you later.